What is going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to go over what I think is the only quads and calves workout that you need. This is just some of the main exercises I've been loving and what has worked for me to grow my quads. The biggest thing I've learned is to just stick with the basics because they really do work, as well as learning to not overtrain, which I definitely struggled with at the beginning of my fitness journey. But let's just hop right into things. Of course, I always like to start off with 5 to 10 minutes of dynamic stretching. Some of the main warm-ups I like to do is several hip flexing stretches while also stretching out the hamstrings, some controlled standing back lunges focusing on knee flexion since I am going to be targeting my quads today. If I were going to target my glutes, I also do them on that day, but instead of knee flexion, I'll focus on leaning back and hinging my hips backward into the lunge, some lateral leg swings. Sometimes I also like to take a band to really open up my hips like you see here. Moving on to our warm-up exercises, I like to start off with some hip adductions to also warm up my hips and just get some blood flowing. But even though it is a warm-up exercise, I don't just go through the motions on these. I do really push myself just as hard as I would on any other exercise that I do. And I've definitely seen growth in my quads from doing these consistently. And I did 3 sets of these for 10 to 12 reps. Then I move into some seated hamstring curls. A lot of people like to do these at the end of their workout, but I like to do them before my main compound exercise because as someone who has weaker knees, I've really seen a difference with knee pain when doing these first. And since I am going to be squatting, these really help with warming up my knees as well as my hamstrings, which are my base when squatting. So it's really good to have a good warm up in your hamstrings as well. And I also do 3 sets of these for 10 to 15 reps. Now moving on to our main compound movement. Since I'm training quads, I always do some variation of a squat. I typically will do either back squats or hack squats, and today we are doing good old back squats. Back squats has always been the hardest exercise for me to get right, and trust, I'm still not perfect at them, but learning to do them what's best for me and my body has helped me the most. Of course, everyone is going to be different, so I can only speak on what has worked for me, but there definitely are some main tips and cues that I think are important for everyone to know when doing back squats. I always start off by doing 1 to 2 warm-up sets, so this is my first warm-up set with just the bar, and I'm doing anywhere from 6 to 10 reps to get warmed up and get a feel for how my body is feeling that day. And if need be, I will follow that with a second warm-up set, just adding a little bit of weight. I try and put on what half or a little less than that if need be of what my 1 rep max would be. So for me, I'm putting on 15 pounds on each side, and I do this warm-up set for also anywhere from 6 to 10 reps. And you may notice that I lean just slightly forward when squatting, and that's just the way my body is structured, so I naturally will have a slight lean to get my full depth and range of motion. Next is our first working set out of 5. I typically will train back squats for 5 working sets for 5 to 6 reps, and for each of my working sets I am adding weight, but just a little bit more than my previous set. It's important not to have a drastic weight jump in between your sets just for the risk of getting burnt out, and I am training these for strength and intensity instead of hypertrophy, so I'm focused on getting more weight, then reps. I didn't record my second or third working sets, but for those I just added slightly more weight than my previous sets. But moving on to my 4th working set, you can tell this is one of my heavier sets because I not only took off my shoes, I personally can't squat in shoes, I don't know, I just do better with just socks, but I also incorporated some knee sleeves to have some compression and keep my joints warm as well as a lifting belt. When I do get to my heaviest sets, a belt is helpful to assist in keeping your core braced throughout the movement, but I try and only use it for my heavy sets. I think it would be a disservice if you were to use a belt for every single set that you did. I was able to get about 5 or 6 reps with this weight, so for my final working set, it will typically be my top set, so I will go until failure, aiming for that rep range for about 5 to 6 reps, and if I can hit that, I know to increase my weight even more for next time. I like to go into my one and only calf exercise after my main squatting movement to give a tiny break for my quads. I know a lot of people do these at the end of their leg days, but I like to sprinkle them in the middle of my workout so I'm not going into them burnt out from my entire workout already. I only really prefer to do the standing calf raises as well. I honestly hate every seated machine I've tried, and studies also show that standing calf raises just give better results anyway over time, so that's why I just prefer to do these. And I like to do 4 sets of these, anywhere from 10 to 15 reps. Next, I like to do a quad focus leg press. I will say this is not my home gym and I did not like this specific leg press machine, but it was all they had, so I just tried it anyway. But you can see I struggled to get the stoppers on and off because it only had 1 set height and I'm very short, so that was a struggle. And I couldn't even get the full range of motion on this either. It had 1 set stopping point as well, so I just wasn't a fan, but it did what it needed to. But anyway, to have these quad focused, just like squats, I have a closer stance with my feet, and lower on the platform. For glutes, you would place them wider and or higher on the platform. And I did these for 3 sets in the 8 to 12 rep range. My last exercise, I did some walking lunges holding dumbbells. You can also do these with an easy bar or kettlebells or even just body weight until failure. I, for one, don't like lunges, but it is essential to have some sort of single leg exercise on your leg days to not have any imbalances in your legs. And since I like to do Bulgarians for my glutes, I usually end up doing some form of lunges to target my quads. And to do that, I focus on knee flexion and taking shorter strides when walking to target my quads over my glutes. And I either do these for 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps each leg, or I do 2 sets of mechanical failure. And that is it for this workout. This is what a typical quad day looks like for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this helped, and I will see you guys really soon in the next video.